Every night, things happen in this world that most people will never know about. Crimes that were never solved, investigations that reached a dead end, and people whose fate remains a mystery. On this channel, we look into the stories that were meant to be forgotten, but still demand answers.
Today, I'd like to tell you about one of the most mysterious cases in Norway's history. The story of a woman whose death became one of the greatest enigmas of the 20th century. A burned body, no identity, and traces that lead nowhere. Who was she? And why did someone want the world to forget her?
November 1970, Norway. In the mountains near Bergen, in a place known to the locals as Isdalen, or the Valley of Death, the air is heavy with fog, and the ground is covered by a thin layer of snow. It's a desolate place, surrounded by rocky slopes and dense forest. A place long shrouded in dark legend. People used to say that centuries ago, others came here to take their own lives, and long before that the spirits of the dead wandered the valley, luring in those who were never meant to enter. It was here, on November 29, 1970, that two hikers and their two daughters stumbled upon a horrifying discovery. Between the rocks, among damp moss and snow, lay the body of a woman. Almost completely burned, her body was positioned unnaturally, arms bent at the elbows, legs spread apart, her face turned toward the sky, frozen in what looked like a final, silent scream. Scattered around her were partially melted objects, empty liquor bottles, remnants of clothing, charred pieces of paper, and fragments of aluminum foil. There were traces of gasoline. Next to her lay a passport, melted, unreadable, stripped of any identifying information. Police from Bergen arrived at the scene several hours later. At first, they assumed it was suicide. The woman might have poured a flammable substance on herself and set herself on fire. But soon the investigators felt that something didn't add up. The body was burned too precisely, too evenly for an accidental fire. No signs of the flames spreading to the surrounding area. No signs of a struggle. And yet it was clear that someone had tried to hide something. No documents were found on her. Every label in her clothing had been carefully cut out. Her fingerprints filed off as if someone had deliberately tried to erase her identity. The police began to realize this was no ordinary case. Preliminary examinations revealed that the woman was between 30 and 40 years old, well-groomed, elegant, physically fit. Traces of more than 50 sleeping pills and some alcohol were found in her stomach. It appeared she might have lost consciousness before her body was set on fire. But how? Who did this? Did she really want to take her own life in such a brutal way, or did someone help her disappear? A few days later, the police found two suitcases belonging to the unidentified woman in the left luggage storage at Bergen railway station. Inside were elegant clothes, several pairs of shoes, luxury brand cosmetics, wigs, and sunglasses. In one of the suitcases, investigators found a notebook filled with mysterious letters and symbols, something that looked like a code. There were no documents, no photos. The only clues were some cosmetics, a shopping bag from an Italian store, and a hairbrush with dark strands matching the victim's hair. An analysis of hotel records around Bergen led the investigators to a shocking discovery. The woman had been traveling across Norway and Western Europe under multiple false identities. In Trondheim, she had registered as Genevieve Landseer. In Stavanger, as Claudia Tilt. In Oslo, as Elisabeth Lienhauers. And in Bergen, as Vera Jarle. All of these names turned out to be false, her passports perfectly forged. Witnesses remembered her as a striking, elegant woman, long dark hair, sharp features, an intense gaze. She spoke fluent French, German, and English. Some said she was distant and cautious. Others claimed she could be charming and persuasive when she wanted something. In the Hotel Neptune in Bergen, where she stayed under the name Fenella Lorch, the staff recalled that she always paid in cash and requested complete discretion. In her room, they found empty cigarette boxes, South State, a rare German brand almost impossible to find in Norway. A few days later, she checked out. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. Investigators began to suspect that the woman might have been a spy. It was 1970, the height of the Cold War. Norway was a strategic NATO point, and near Bergen was a naval base where Allied warships were stationed. Witnesses said they had seen her near the harbor, watching ships through binoculars and taking notes in her notebook. Was she an agent? Or perhaps a double spy who lost control of her own game? The Norwegian police sought help from Interpol and several European intelligence agencies, but no one could identify her. As the investigation unfolded, more clues emerged. The dental work in her teeth matched techniques used mainly in Germany and Eastern Europe in the 1950s. She had no scars or distinctive marks, but the fillings and crowns suggested she came from somewhere within the Eastern Bloc, perhaps Poland, Czechoslovakia, or East Germany. In 2016, isotope analysis of her tooth enamel confirmed that she had likely grown up in Germany or Austria, but had spent part of her life further south in Europe, possibly Italy. That confirmed one thing. The woman had moved around frequently, and probably not without reason. In the case files, several witness statements remain. One of them, a shopkeeper from Bergen, claimed that the woman had bought rubber boots and a map of mountain trails. Another witness, a young tourist, saw her a few days before her death, alone, anxious, constantly looking over her shoulder as if someone was following her. She was carrying a bag, one that was never found. No evidence was ever discovered that could point to a perpetrator. No fingerprints, no traces of another person's DNA. Only silence and a burned body in a valley where no one should have been. Despite extensive investigation and international publicity, no one ever recognized her. No country reported a missing woman matching her description. Not France, not Germany, not Belgium, despite the nationalities she had used. In the years that followed, countless theories appeared. The most popular one suggested she was a spy, possibly working for East German or Soviet intelligence. Her death, some said, was part of a failed operation, or a cover-up to silence someone who knew too much. Other theories claimed she was a freelance agent, trading secrets between the East and West, and when she was exposed, someone simply made her disappear. There were also more down-to-earth hypotheses, that she was an artist, a fugitive, a woman running from her past. But even those didn't explain why she had erased every trace of her identity so meticulously. In 1971, the police officially closed the investigation, labeling it a suicide. But many of the detectives involved never believed that conclusion. Years later, one of them admitted, "It didn't look like suicide. Someone wanted us to believe it was." But she wasn't alone in that valley. In 2016, Norwegian police reopened the case. New DNA testing revealed that the woman had Central European ancestry, likely German, Austrian, or Czech. A facial reconstruction based on her preserved skull was created. The image of a woman with a calm, sad expression spread around the world. But no one came forward. No family, no friend, no institution. As if she truly was someone who had been meant to disappear forever. In Bergen, among green trees and the sound of the sea, lies her grave. On the stone, a simple inscription reads, "Here lies an unknown woman. Remember her." Every year, people still leave flowers there. Some believe she was a spy, others that she was a victim of love, betrayal, or politics. But the truth remains somewhere in the shadows, between fact and speculation.
Was she a woman who died at the hands of those whose secrets she knew too well? Or someone who tried to vanish and failed? We will probably never know. But one thing is certain. The story of the Isdal Woman remains one of Scandinavia's most haunting and enduring mysteries. A case that captures everything terrifying about human nature: secrecy, death, deception, and the desperate will to erase everything in fire. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and stay with us a little longer. And remember, before you go to sleep, take a good look around, because real evil rarely looks like a monster.